No, when I got that job, it was probably I just gotten hired. And they made me work for that one because I was there for like a month and a half doing interviews, and interviews as in I would go in every single week and they would have me working because I'd never done radio before. And with Dallas is the number 5 market in the nation. So, which means they don't take on newbies. So if you've just graduated from college, they tell you, my professor said, she's like, take the top 50 markets and don't even apply for them, is what they told us. And I feel like it's hard in the sense, or I don't know, I think it's different also for believers too, because people are kind of, it's all about who you know, it's all about who you know. But it's like when the Lord wants you somewhere, he's going to put you somewhere.
Amen.
And I was very, very fortunate during, when I was working on my master's, and my master's was great. North Texas was awesome, but I got the most out of the people that I met there. And the individuals that I met there, I mean, the Lord kind of, put it all together, even when I didn't know that that's obviously like what was going on. After I graduated, I had no prospects at all, like whatsoever. I'm like, am I gonna move to a smaller town? What's gonna happen? I applied to over 50 jobs. Only heard back from this one. And the only reason I heard back was because when I worked at North Texas, I shadowed, I wanted to be a sideline reporter. And this guy, I spent all football season literally just being his shadow. I'm like, wherever you're going, bro, I'm going. So, and I didn't know that he worked for that radio station at all at the time. So when my resume just happened to pop up, I got a call from the director or station manager. I'm not sure of his official title. Sorry, John. But he called me and he was like, hey, I'd like to have you in, blah, blah. So, and I'm like, I have never done radio before. I was like, I've done, TV for NTTV, but like radio is just different. At least with television, I have like a prompter, I'm not having to come up with something kind of on the fly. Because even though in radio, I've got something in front of me, you're kind of just winging it. As long as it's the accurate information, you're just winging it. And after a couple times I had sat with him in his office, he was like, do you know how you got here? I was like, well, I applied. And he was like, he's like, do you know Zach Babb? And I was like, yeah, like, he's a great guy. And, basically shouted him all football season. And he was like, well, do you know he works here? I was like, well, no, I didn't. And he was like, so when I saw that you went to North Texas, he's like, I know that he goes there. And I asked him about you. And he said that that yes, you've never worked in radio, but that you shadowed him all season and that you're a hard worker and to bring you in. So I'm like, thank you, Lord. And so I was there for a month and a half. I got the job. 2 weeks later, that's when COVID happened. So then they sent everybody home. So I had just gotten the job. I'm still fairly new. I haven't even been on air yet. They just packed me up a studio and they're like, wow. Good luck, lady. I remember the first time that I was on air, I was at my house. It was, I get up at 4:30 every morning. I'm on air. My first report's at 5 every day. And, which is kind of nice for a COVID situation because where I was living, I'm like, I'd have to get up at 3:30 to be at the station by like 4:15 to like set up shop. So it's kind of nice to just, roll out of bed and hop on air, and I remember it was 5 a.m. And kind of how the system works is if you don't send your report for Sirius, it alerts the entire company because they don't know who's on that day. So everybody's getting an email, not just my boss, but everybody and their grandma. So it was 5 a.m. I'd never done a report before. I only had like 2 other numbers to 2 other reporters, and I was not hitting the time mark. You have to send it. The time mark is a minute 29, a minute 30. No, it can't be 128. It can't be 131. It will be rejected. And I didn't know how to, all the tips and tricks yet to how to adjust it, to whatever. And I was sitting there crying at 5 a.m. and I called one of the other reporters and she's like, oh, it's okay, sweetheart. You don't, she's been there for like 20 something years, oh, it's okay, sweetheart. I'll toss this out for you and we'll practice, whatever. But it's now been 2 years, since then. I obviously know a little bit now of like what I'm doing. So it's been kind of a long journey, but it's been cool.